Welcome back to the Learnetto Podcast, where I speak to awesome programmers, designers, and marketers so you can learn from their experiences. Check out all our episodes on learnetto.com/podcast. While you're there, also have a look at the amazing courses on making web apps, designing mobile apps, growing your startup, and more that we have launched this week. And don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to get exclusive discounts on courses and new podcast episodes right in your inbox. Alright, so today on this podcast, I'm interviewing Cindy Potvin, a software developer based in Montreal, Canada. Cindy has years of experience developing web and Android applications. She also writes a very popular blog to help developers decide how to go about learning new skills. She has written popular series such as Learning as a Software Developer and Play and Learn as a Software Developer. Let's hear Cindy's story. Hi Cindy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for agreeing to speak with me.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, just for our listeners, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Cindy Potvin. I'm working as a product owner at Giro. We're doing software for public transportation organizations.
Wow, that sounds good. And where are you based?
I'm based in Montreal.
Montreal, okay. Tell me a bit about your background and especially your blog and how you became a programmer.
Well, I first learned to program in high school. We had a VB6 class. I liked it enough to move on at college in computer and at university and electrical engineering, but with a strong computer specialization. And every internship I did, I ended up doing web application, and I'm still a web application developer, and I do some Android and C++ desktop application.
Oh wow! So you do all of them. What languages you use for web applications?
It's ASP.NET MVC with C#.
Oh, wow, that's cool. That's interesting because in most of the people I deal with, they're more towards open source sort of Ruby, Python, that kind of stack. I know a few .NET developers, but yeah, it's generally fewer than the others. So yeah, that's interesting to hear.
Well, working with big organizations, so they already are standardized on Windows. It's easier for them to
sure
integrate.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a bit of a bias against it in some of the open source world, and I'm not sure if it's fair to be biased against it, because from what I've heard, like C# is a pretty good language. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear more about that. So how long have you been working as a professional programmer?
I've been working for 6 years at the same organization.
16 years?
6.
6 years. Wow. Okay, cool. Tell me about your blog. When did you start that, and why did you start that?
I've started maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. With a technical article, I wanted to improve my written English and my writing in general and show my expertise. And it's gone beyond that. I've been enjoying sharing my thoughts and meeting new people.
Yeah, it's a very interesting blog. Because did you start off just as writing about what you were learning?
Yeah, I just started out with an article about Android. When I was starting out with Android and technical problem, and then I got interested in the more soft skill side of programming.
Yeah, because a lot of people have tech blogs which are very heavily detailed about how to do things in Android or any other platform or language. What's interesting about your blog is like you said, you talk about the soft skills of how one learns to program and other things that go with that. So when did you start writing more about the soft skills?
Well, I started going this way more at the start of last year, and more this summer that I moved on for a more general soft skill. And then I wrote a bit about education and learning, and it struck a nerve because many developers have to learn new things regularly. It's part of the job, so many people have those same problems and need to stay up to date.
Yeah, so has it been that part of your blog was well received, so that must have encouraged you to write more on that topic.
Yeah, I always think I'm going to stop because I've said everything, but then I get a few more ideas and
Sure.
it's keep going on and on.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting blog. One particular series that I noticed was the learning. It's called the Learning as a Software Developer, right? So tell me about that series.
Yeah, it was because it's when you're in school, it's easy. You follow your course, but once you're out and want a specialty, there's no manual. You have to figure out where you're going because the possibilities are endless. There are always new language, new framework, and I wanted to put down my thought on how you could make a choice that's the right one for yourself and plan out what you're going to learn to get there.
Okay, and so how many blog posts are there in that series?
I have four, I think, 4, 5.
Okay, is that an ongoing series? Are you writing more on that?
Well, it was a self-contained series, but I've been writing more about the subject. I started a new series
Okay.
more about playing and learning, so it does tie into this, but it's the more playful side of
Okay.
it. Let's see.
Right. Okay. So talking more specifically about your own experience in learning to program, tell me about some of the challenges that you faced when you were learning.
Well, when I started out, the learning and the internet was just starting out, so no Stack Overflow, a bit of googling if you were lucky, but the information was a lot harder to come by if you wanted to fix problem. Open source, there was a lot less libraries, but right now many more choices to if you're stuck and need some help. It's a lot easier than a few big books.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, now I guess people who are learning for the first time now, they're having a very different experience that than some of us did years ago.
Yeah, with PHP 3, 4, and HTML4, large
Yeah,
book, it was a challenge
PhD.
just
Yeah.
to know what's the right thing to do and the good practices was hard.
Yeah, so I mean, did you use a lot of books? Is that how you learned?
Well, I did some books and I had to go study it in school to really get started correctly, and because there was no online courses then.
Sure, yeah. I mean, so you said you started learning in school. What kind of things did they teach you in school?
Well, the very first thing I did was, like I said, in VB6, they
Yeah.
had games that we would do.
Okay, that must have been pretty fun.
Yeah, that was a good way to start for young people. It's always fun to see it visually and thing moving. It's a bit like when you're doing outdoor, seeing the light flashing and stuff moving in real time. It's more exciting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I first learned a little bit of programming when I was in school in India, and we were just taught really boring stuff. And I just, I mean,
Yeah.
I was always interested in computers, but that wasn't fun. It was
Yeah,
very.
well, when we started in college, it's C and arrays and memory. It's all very dry.
Yeah, yeah, it can be quite theoretical and sort of you don't see it's useful stuff you realize later, but at the time, you don't see any application for it. So yeah, it can seem quite dry and boring. So tell me about how specifically with your blog, have you faced any challenges or interesting opportunities? What's been your experience?
Well, with my blog, I had a chance to speak at a conference. I went to DroidCon in Montreal. That was a big challenge because I'm not that much at ease speaking in front of a public, but I use article that I wrote about Android storage to apply to the conference, and with the blogging itself, it's learning how to write and how to put down idea clearly, because you can't keep step if it's for someone else.
Sure.
It's more work than it looks like.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, we're trying to publish things every week on the Learnetto blog, and it's a lot of work. And like you said, it looks easy from the outside, but it's not that easy to consistently write, good things.
Yeah, and technical, you can't just go down and write the article in one shot. You have to to validate and check that what you're writing work and the examples are good and that they build and someone trying it will have the right result. So lot of double checking.
Yeah. So at the moment, is most of your writing soft skill? Do you still write some technical stuff?
I don't write a lot of technical stuff right now because I don't have time to do a lot of technical stuff too. A job I do more management and code review, but I don't write a lot of code right now, so I have less occasion to have crunchy technical problems.
Okay. What was the last new thing you learned in programming?
Well, I'm doing a course on Bootstrap with Coursera.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's nice.
It's a good one. It's I'm used to doing CSS by hand, and it's an interesting viewpoint.
Yeah, Bootstrap is nice. I've used it a lot. Okay, great. And how's that experience been for you? Because it must be a bit of a contrast from how you learned things before.
Yeah, because often I'm not working with fast prototyping at work. It's often large, long-term project. So
Right.
I want to learn more about the say more startup way of seeing things. It's as much about how to think about it than the language themselves. That's interesting.
Yeah. So are you working on a project as you're learning Bootstrap?
Right now, I'm just going through the course, but I have a few projects in mind.
Because you could, right, you could apply it to your blog, couldn't you?
Well, I could. I'm thinking of reworking my team at some point, so it's a possibility.
Okay, great. So you are you enjoying learning again though?
Yeah, I always want to have a few new things that I'm working
Sure.
on to learn, even if it's slowed down a bit, because right now I was focusing on learning about writing and blogging and teaching, but I want to pick it up more.
Okay, I'm curious to know more about your thoughts on learning. I mean, learning to program and even other skills online. What are your thoughts on online education?
Well, right now I think it's pretty exciting. As much as for the student, there are many good courses and viewpoint and way of seeing things. And for the teachers, there's so many platforms right now that offer a good experience and allow you to get students. So I think we're going to see a lot of good things in the next few years.
Have you considered teaching a course yourself?
Well, I'm working on a book based on my series we spoke about earlier on learning as a
Okay.
software developer. Not going
Okay.
to be a huge book, but maybe I'll do some kind of course after this on soft skill or on something more technical, but I want to keep teaching.
Yeah, that would actually make a very good and unique book and course because it's not a topic a lot of people cover. So yeah, that sounds very interesting. Do you have any advice or tips on people who are either beginning to learn to code or are interested to learn to code but don't know where to start?
Well, at some point you just have to pick one place because it's so big, and when you're in motion and you learn more, you will have a better idea of where you should go. You can't guess everything just by looking at it, and don't overwhelm yourself because there are tons of things to learn, but you don't need to learn them all at once.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one problem a lot of people face now is that there is just so much stuff out there and they get overwhelmed, like you said, and they don't know where to even start.
It has grown more complex. The web, when I started out, was HTML with no CSS, and now there's all those libraries that are doing very nice things, but it adds to the thing you need to learn before starting.
Would you like to talk about some of the topics, some of the themes that you touch in your series, the one on learning as a software developer and the new series that you mentioned?
Well, with the previous series, Learning as a Software Developer, it was about more finding your way as a software developer because, like you said, it's pretty overwhelming just if you're following the popular blogs and Hacker News and you read, it's endless. And I wanted to bring some clarity to this. And playing the new series, it's more about finding more the fun of learning and programming again and finding strategy and tools to have a good learning experience and not just dry and boring all the time.
Right. So what are some fun things that people can do or tools people can use to make learning programming fun?
Well, one that's pretty popular, and I agree with it, it's kits like Arduino and Raspberry Pi. That's always fun to see real life feedback or things that would allow to see you quick result. If you want, for example, to do ASP.NET or Ruby, or just trying to set up everything, it can be a grind. And so using virtual machines that are already set up or easy environment that allow you to get started quick and tinker and have fun. It's a good way for beginner too to get into it, and you can worry about all the setup and infrastructure later.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, some of the things, the setup itself is so.
I tried to do Ruby on Rails on Windows.
Oh my God, yeah.
I threw everything out and try on Linux again, but it's not a fun experience if you're just looking to try it out.
Sure. Actually, for Ruby on Rails, there is a good program which just installs it for you on Windows.
Yeah, but it didn't work exactly as planned. Because
Right,
it assumes some things that are not always true on the Windows platform. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's one hidden reality of life as a programmer that people don't realize is all the time you spend just setting things up and getting them to just so that you can start doing things.
To get to the first hello world.
Yeah, to the first step. Yeah, so it's anything that helps with that is definitely a plus. So you've worked on a lot of different platforms from desktop, Windows, Linux. It sounds like to web and mobile as well. Which ones do you enjoy most? What differences do you see in terms of learning?
Well, I'm a web developer at heart. I started with this and I'm still doing it and I love it. But I think Android is a good one for developer, mobile Android, because the language is smaller and more self-contained. If you stick with the Android SDK, you don't have many browsers to take into account or language, or it's just Java and XMLs for the layout. So it's a good starting point.
Okay, so you mean learning native Android?
It's smaller and more content
with Java.
That's more self-contained than the web that has tons of front-end and back-end language and frameworks you can use.
Sure, and what about compared with iOS?
I've not done a ton of iOS, but from what I understand, it's similar. If you go with Swift, or it's within Xcode and you follow the pattern, it's easier than just going in all directions.
Yeah, because I would imagine iOS is even more self-contained than Android, because Android has so many devices you need to cater to.
But it requires more of an investment, iOS. If you're not all set up in Apple stuff.
Absolutely. Sure, yeah. If you're not already sending loads of money to Apple, then yes, it is a big investment to get started. Okay, on the website, if you had to start learning today, where would you start? Like, what would you pick up first?
I would start with HTML, CSS for sure. And JavaScript.
Okay.
I think Node would be a good starting point because you can use the same language for the front end and back end. I've not a lot of experience with it, but I like this concept. Since if you go any further with it, you're going to go with Ruby. You have to have Ruby on the back end and JavaScript and making them communicate. And it's always more friction.
Sure. Okay, great. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions I had prepared for you. If you have any other advice or tips for our listeners, please go ahead.
Well, I'd say don't be afraid and just dive in. It's worth it in the end. And don't be afraid to tinker. You're not going to break your computer.
Okay, good. That's a good one. Okay, well, Cindy, can you tell people where they can find you online, where they can follow you and your work?
Well, I can be followed on my blog at blog.cindypotvin.com, and I also have a newsletter with 5 hacks to learn new skills as a software developer if you want to hear more about learning.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll add those links to the show notes. And yeah, I'm sure people would love to check your stuff out. Thanks a lot for talking to me today. It was really nice talking, and I got to learn some new things.
Thank you for having me.
That was Cindy Potvin, a web and Android developer based in Montreal, Canada. You can check out her blog at blog.cindypotvin.com. You can find the transcript of this interview on our blog at learnetto.com/blog. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate us on iTunes so that others can find it and enjoy it too. You can also get new episodes by signing up to our newsletter on learnetto.com and following us on Twitter at LRNTTO. I'm your host Rishi Mittal, signing off. Until next time.